All right, everybody, welcome back to the No Starving Artists Podcast. Super excited for this episode. This is a groundbreaking episode. First episode outside of Utah in person, so double whammy there. We have an amazing guest named Slay Smiles. We connected on Instagram, and she was kind enough to come on the podcast. So I'm going to allow her to introduce herself a little bit, and then we're going to jump right into the nitty gritty. So Slay, take it away.
The nitty gritty. My name is Slay Smiles. Some people know me, or I'm formerly known as Taja Riley, dance activist, dance artist or performer, creative, really, entertainer, and a lover of life. A lover of life, yeah.
Incredible. So we were chatting while everything was getting set up, and I had all these questions swarming in my head, and I was awkwardly withholding them so that we could talk about them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm ready. No, I'm totally ready, but yeah. Okay. Ask away.
Question number 1. Where are you from here?
I'm nervous. Why am I nervous? I'm like, where am I from?
Now that everything's
Am I
on.
from here? No, I'm not from here. Originally born in New York, New Rochelle, New York. Stand up, New York. But I grew up in Virginia Beach, raised with like New York household, so like the New York household grit, but kind of giving surfer Sam.
Okay.
At the same
Okay.
time.
I'm with it.
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
I'm with it.
Good old
Did you
Virginia Beach.
were you like a studio kid? What was your entrance into dance?
Yeah, I was a studio kid. So
Okay.
straddle between the dance studio and the recording studio growing up, because my dad come from a music entertainment family, music royalty really. My dad's Teddy Riley, and he had a studio. Oh, what's that?
No, this is like popping. You just throw that out there in the middle of this podcast. Okay. All right.
But yeah, I was kind of straddled between both. They were like 3 minutes distance from each other. They were 3 minutes distance from each other. So went to Denise Wall's Dance Energy in Virginia Beach, Virginia, with some icons.
Yeah.
Growing up. But yeah, I kind of, my parents got me into dance because I had no rhythm. It was a very true story, short story, and I've told it a little bit too many times, many an interview, so I'm not even going to talk about it. You can go Google that or something, because it is quite embarrassing. But yeah, I enrolled into Denise Wall's Dance Energy, found my dance home, and recording studio that my dad had was called Future Records, and it was a huge legacy. It really opened doors for a lot of vets in the industry, Pharrell Williams, Diddy, to name just a couple.
Yep.
And yeah, I like it. It's comical to me in a way because my upbringing was totally unorthodox, just not normal.
Yeah.
Being in the studio, dance studio, rehearsing, getting dropped off at the recording studio, walking in to Spice Girls.
Yeah.
Okay,
Something
I'm gonna
light,
have tea with Mel.
Right.
Okay. But it was a really fun environment for a dreamer.
Yeah.
And really just a fearless. I was very fearless growing up. I think because of that, of the confidence of it was just naturally, this was all, open to me, and it allowed me to be in this space, and my parents were supportive too, so it allowed me to be in a space where the things that I did take serious, my parents also took serious, and they were very adamant on great education in order to live out your dreams, and we'll follow you, you know, and always finish what you start, which was a very hard lesson for me at times. So I'd be like, yes, I want to do flamenco. I need to Spanish dance. And then like a couple weeks into it, I was like, Mom, it's like boring. And she's like, well, it's going to be boring for another year staying there.
Mm.
But I have a huge adoration for flamenco dancers and just flamenco in general, and the culture and the art taught me so much. But yeah, like that was my competition life or competition career was based around somewhere between 70 to 96 hours a week.
Holy cow.
When it got into my prime, because I was in the junior company, but I was also in the senior company. And I would be learning somewhere between 15 to 20 numbers a year. Yeah. Lots of class, lots of training. That was my life.
So there's a core of this interview that I want to get into, but now you're going to get a personal question because I am obsessed with hip hop, with the culture of hip hop. It's something that, like, as a guest to the culture, I am constantly just in awe of people that got to be around it closely because I wasn't able to. What was it like to be in the zeitgeist of not just hip hop, but just in general? I mean, when you're that close to the pulse of like what's happening because music drives so much of culture in America and the world at large. What was it like to be in that?
You know, what's interesting is like my respect level for hip hop and really R&B, because that's kind of where my dad pioneered the R&B channel through New Jack Swing. And I was giving, I get knocked down, but I get up again. I was giving Chumbawamba when I was younger. I tried to rebel against the machine of R&B for years. I mean, come on, you go to a bunch of conventions and you're hearing Evanescence, you're getting hypnotized. It's happening. But yeah, I mean, for me to be in that intersection, that cross intersection of music and dance, I think attributes to why I am so adamant about change now. For sure, because I've seen both sides growing up. I've seen behind the scenes of the entertainment industry, how ugly it can be for music artists, how ugly it can be for literally anybody that works in the entertainment industry. And I think me putting my foot down and saying, arguably so, that it should change, and not just for dance artists, but just creatives in general. We hold the least amount of stake and power over the works that we create. Right. And the changes that we do make to people's lives on a daily accessible level, daily functioning level. I mean, you get up, you wake up in the morning, at some point in your routine, you're listening to music. You wake up, you get up, or you go to school and you come home, and at some point you're stretched in front of the TV and you're watching a TV show with music videos or a musical performance, or even flipping through your Instagram and seeing dance every 2 seconds, whether you like it or not, either from an enthusiast of dance artists or from influencers or from trained, skilled, professionals. And with that amount of content, it has a way to speak to your soul in so many different forms. But music and dance being the most potent, music doesn't have to ask permission to go straight to your soul. And dance really doesn't have to ask permission to get you to ignite and emote when it's done right. So I do feel that, now we're living in a time where we kind of are all stretched across that intersection. It's just about how much you want to dive in. And what do you want to get to know? And I think that's really with any channel, with any topic. But for me, as a young buck, as a young kid, and starry-eyed, definitely felt fire. Always growing up. I think that's probably why I was so fearless, of just like so confident to the point getting on stage and being like, yeah, I know this combo, and I do not know this combo.
Yeah.
It's because of the performer in me, the light in me, the warrior in me, the young grasshopper in me, and that's I think that's what's truly amazing about my upbringing that I appreciate, is to be able to see those stars and have that daily access in front of me of like, it's a real thing. It's not a performative thing. They have to do that to survive.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel.
So when did advocacy around dance, it sounds like it was always something you were aware of and always something that you were kind of in tune to. When did you start allowing it to take more of a forefront and be more outspoken about it?
I think,
like right away, or was it something that you had to develop into?
I think it was a turning point. I'm going to give a plug to a friend of mine named Anthony Garza. Incredible dance artist. One of my favorites to watch growing up. He's done probably close to 20 different world tours over the course of his career. And I really looked up to a lot of dance artists first getting in the scene. Being brought in through the Janet camp, I had access to Ed Moore and, you know, Laurel and Jillian and Galen and, you know, Nick Bass, Victor Rojas, just heavy hitters, really. Wiley, heavy hitters, you know. So for me, getting to this space where I could see when certain rehearsals or things would happen. I think specifically it was, we were doing some industrial thing for Macy's.
Okay.
I think it was for Macy's. And there were just certain conditions that were not right.
Yeah.
And I remember Anthony speaking up about it. After he spoke up about it, he had a little bit more of a script to share with me and kind of sidebarred with me of, these are how things should be. If they're not this way, you should not be afraid to do X, Y, Z, or go to this person or find this person.
Yeah.
And so as a youngin' too, you know, where the bar was set so high with working with Janet, and then everything else after that kind of was like, ooh, that's the real industry. It's not upper echelon. You're not getting treated like an athlete. You're not really even getting treated like a top performer. You're getting treated like you're part of the background. You're one of the, you know, extras, you know? Moving prop. The world of the moving props. But yeah, so after having that conversation, it continued to follow me and manifest with like inside of just all of these ideas and concepts of, it should be, why isn't it this? Why are the, and just doing a comparison. And a lot of times when I did comparisons, it would be other things surrounding the industry or other roles within the industry where there was better treatment, but it was better treatment as that's the status quo or the usual, you know? And for us, the usual was living in the twilight zone, and I was just not getting it. I was not getting it. So that would have been.
That was like a significant moment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And how did you? Was it just kind of that like overall confidence that you talk about, like that you kind of carried with you throughout your life that allowed you to actually step up and you be the person that started saying things on sets, or what? Because I was scared. So, I mean, I think a lot of dancers like. Maybe I shouldn't say a lot. I think there are other dancers that know what things are right and wrong, but it always kind of falls back to like, well, like this is also a great opportunity. So how did you kind of navigate? Do you have like a threshold or like a guideline that you're like, I really like this job, so I'm willing to like lower my standards in some other areas, or you try to be straight across the board no matter what?
Like anytime it's a question I don't want. Cut the camera. Well, really, for me, God is first and foremost in my life. I feel because I have a strong prayer life and foundation through my family of just operating with my faith. and allowing that to guide me, and allowing the conversations, the fellowship that I have with God to really help me, because that's my director, that's my manager, that's my representative. And so really understanding, okay, let me take a second and step back of what is the intention when I focus on the intention of a job, you know, to do the job, and then what is the purpose for me being there, why have you called me here? And I have gone back to that over the past couple of years of advocacy, because I just found it so shocking. I was still booking work after really tearing a lot of different, you know,
well, I think that's the fear, right? Is that if you step up,
that if you, I mean, obviously we're conditioned to be taught that like, don't question the veil, don't question, you know. But, you know, for me, I'm naturally curious. I'm naturally like, is it something you have against me, or is it part of a, you know, a protocol that you're reading of like, just literally don't feed the dancers, or don't give them chairs to sit in, don't make sure that they have waters. Why make them stay? I mean, when they can go and pick up their lunch themselves, and then they only get 20 minutes really of their break to eat it, digest it, warm up again. Like, you know, some of these things where I'm like, honestly, as an athlete, as a professional athlete, it doesn't occur. But for us, we got to do it all. We got to be the runner. We got to be the server, the busser. We got to be the hostess, the maitre d', the reception. Like, it's a lot. So, you know, where was
no? I? This is great. So I think like so my follow up would be, so essentially when you started questioning things, as you put it, the response was a lot different than you thought it was going to be.
Yes,
it wasn't met with like get off set. It was met with.
Oh, no. It definitely was met with like, get off set.
Really?
No, it was definitely.
Really?
I would be lying to you if it was. I said it wasn't.
So how'd you keep going? You just knew that it was like, because it'd be really easy for anybody at that point, like the first time it happened. You say something and they say get off set and you're like, okay, I'm never going to do that again.
The first time it happened, I cried. I literally called my mom and called my sister and cried. And I was like, I need to make this decision, Mom, and I got to make this decision before we go to lunch. We were on a break. I was actually doing Kanye West's Coachella.
Okay.
I had been part of the skeleton crew too, so I was part of the workshopping crew that put all the elements together. So of course I want to see this happen. It was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It was one of my favorite albums. He's one of my favorite artists. Bon Iver was in the room.
That's crazy.
It was just one of those really awesome moments. And then he had to go and say something that this was pre-Sunday service Kanye. This is Kanye. This isn't Ye. This was, you know, when he was going through a really tough time, and obviously had a lot of grace for that rough time. But he was one of my, and still is one of my biggest role models in the industry for standing up in what he believes in and standing up for his ideas, and the way just that he is literally, he takes no no poo, none. And so for me to be in that room and then him to make this spur of the moment decision of, I kind of want them to, and let me paint a picture for you, because My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, for those that do not know, it is more of a storytelling album. It's an experience album. So what he wanted to do was deliver this story of these women that were, I guess, part of a village and flailing and out of control, and then, you know, allowing through that story for them to experience rebirth, right? Gotcha. And it could sound very beautiful, but he had a specific cue point where he was going to be on a Jumbotron, and he wanted us, quote, walking around, flailing around like we were possessed, like demonically possessed. And again, painting a picture, we were in like see-through is it translucent? What do you say? Transparent,
I think it's
translucent outfits.
Sure.
Mesh. We're gonna go with mesh. It was mesh, but mesh toned to our skin. So it looks like a bunch of naked women running around, and then they have to get on their knees towards the Jumbotron and start praising Kanye.
Interesting. Okay.
And then at the end, they all get rebirthed into these beautiful butterflies.
Okay.
And so for me, biblically, that's like, this is not giving.
Maybe not.
This is not giving in front of 60,000 people. Probs not.
Yeah.
And it was an idea. It was a concept. Like, he could have changed his mind later on. I was not willing to sit with, if you don't change your mind,
then I have to do this.
Right. And so I was okay. And I'm asking other people, right? I'm asking other people that were on the job, and other people that were Christian, other people that had a high level of faith. And in those moments, they were like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable doing. I don't want to do that. I don't think this feels right. This doesn't align with me. And I'm like, it doesn't feel right. I think, honestly, respectfully, I need to leave if it's going to be this, And, and they kind of acted like I'm with that too. I'm definitely with that too, because I don't want to end up in that situation. It was one of those times where you think you're walking the journey with 5, 6, 7 people on your back, and then you turn around. Wait, am I still gonna do this? And so at that point, it was like they're not gonna do it, and we had started doing some more drills where now we're about to start putting that into action. We were rehearsing it and talking around the idea, and then the choreographer that I was working with was forming the idea around it, right? And I mean, really great guy. I forget what his name was, started with I. But at the time, like, I had checked out his work. He was the one that did Runaway with the ballerinas and stuff like that. So I was a fan. I mean, like, I was looking to learn. I'm always looking to learn when I book jobs. But as he started to recraft, I was just more and more like, no. And everybody else was more and more like, I guess, like, let's make the motions. And I just was like, in this weird, I'm not going to participate, but I'm participating mode. Like, I'll walk to my spot, but I'm not going to be doing the robot. So that happened. And then I had the phone call. We had a little water break, called my mom and my sister. And I was just like, what do you think I should do? And my mom hit me straight with the Bible of just, to not be anxious, to not worry about, like, your resources, because I really needed that job. I really needed to get paid. I really needed that check, right?
Yeah.
But it was, and I really wanted to work with these people.
Yeah.
But it was just not, that just did not sit well with me. And, I guess long story long, got off the phone with my mom, and I was like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And I went up to the choreographer, and Kanye was like in a space where he could overhear the conversation. And I said, I just want to start off by saying thank you and express gratitude for even being in this position, being able to work alongside of you. I do not take it for granted. I've got to tell you, I am my soul, my being does not belong to me. It belongs to God, like the Most High. And there's just something about some of these cues that weren't originally there, that are now there, that don't feel right with my spirit. And I completely respect Kanye for creatively suggesting and going where he needs to go for him and his journey.
Yeah.
I just am not in agreement with that journey that he's on right now.
Right.
And he is one of my favorite artists. He still will be one of my favorite artists. But at this present time, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And you know, the choreographer respected it, but he also was trying to convince me still to do it. Like, well, what if we did blah, blah, blah? And I was like, honestly, as long as this concept is being utilized,
right,
I cannot do the project. Now, if, you know, you want me to stick around and, you know, stay around, or there's future projects where you pivot away from this concept, I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Yeah.
This just currently doesn't feel right for me, and I don't want to disrespect you. I don't want to disrespect, you know, Kanye.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's it. And during lunch break, I started to walk out, and because it was during lunch break where I was talking to him, it was towards that end where some of the girls were starting to come back, and they were still doing the job, and I had to walk past all of them. Like,
yeah.
See ya. And yeah, I mean, and then the Coachella happened and stuff, and at that weekend that Coachella happened, I ended up getting a check. I went to go pick up my check from Clear, who was my agent at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to opening it in my car, and it says Kanye Coachella. I was literally paid as though I did the project full throttle, full force.
Interesting.
And I didn't.
Interesting.
And that was a huge pinnacle moment in my life, in my career, even just in, you know, my faith.
Yeah.
Of just always stand for God, always stand for, you know, what you truly believe in, and you will be rewarded. And, you know, you may not see the reward, you know, financially right away, or spiritually or emotionally, mentally, but it's the act of making that decision and standing for that's a reward in itself, of being strong in your values, because it can kind of be like a test. But that was a huge moment for me of just, I did it. I did what I knew was right, and God still made sure I was okay.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
How did you feel like, so walking out, you know, you get out of the building, did you feel like you had made the right decision? Like, did it feel good, or did you feel, or were you still torn up at that point?
It felt.
When did you realize, like, was it the check, or when did you realize that you were like, okay, like that was a good decision?
I was like, my mom really loves me. I was like, mommy, yeah.
No, that's real.
Mom.
That's real.
My mom really thinks I'm cool because
Yeah.
I did this. It was happy tears,
yeah.
a little constipation.
Yeah.
A little constipated after that, But
so then so then the next time this happens, do you have like flashbacks of like,
you
man,
know,
like this could be the same thing over again?
But since then, it's never been like that. But there was a time recently, over like the last year, where I did a job. I advocated for some of the dance artists that were on the job, because it came down to choreography, right?
Yeah.
And we had workshopped, and it was at this stage where I was like, I'm not having it. We workshopped, and this is our work. And, you know, originally when we got the brief for the project, and this goes into even the entrepreneurial mindset of a dance artist, and really starting to think of your line items and the depth or the quality of your labor. Because when people say it's movement direction and it's just going to be a simple brief, there's certain things that I take into consideration now, because usually when it is a movement directed scene, it's a movement directed scene for a hook, 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, right? Not the whole song from top to bottom. It was the whole song, right? And
Dancer's choice.
Yeah, right? Dancer's choice, the entire song. There was a choreography that the choreographer had put together that was about 4/8, right? We learned that in the first hour. we repeated it throughout the song, everything in between, all the verses, and even just like the bridge aspect was all us.
Yeah.
It was all made with us in that space. So what I did is I took that leverage and I said, because they still didn't have paperwork for us the day we started the job.
Yeah.
And that was one of my fighting points or negotiating points when I booked the job of like, could we have this paperwork, right?
Yeah.
Just so that we know exactly what we're going to do and what is expected of us, all that stuff. They didn't do it. So when we had gotten to rehearsal, I think they had sent some sort of release or deal memo or something at that point, but it was like towards the end of rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
So I follow my advocacy protocol, which is I always get all the names of everybody that's part of the project, right? I find out who the producer is. And I find out, you know, who is handling accounting or coordinating, supervising talent, one of the heavier names. And then I find out who is the one that delegated, articulated what our fees were going to be. In this situation, it was partly the choreographer. And that was okaying some of these things. And I always say that's like a big no-no unless you are the employer for the casted or contracted talent. I wouldn't suggest, you know, a choreographer advocating on our behalf unless they actually asked our permission or our manager agency's permission.
Yeah. That
didn't happen. I got in a chat. I spoke with all of the dance artists, asked about, you know, like some of these fees because I personally felt that this was worth a bump up of our overall rate because it was below Dancers Alliance. And there were other things that were not being taken care of, like workers' comp and any hazard pay or, you know, the standards that we're going to be working in. Plus, I think the video was being shot like almost 2 hours away from where you know, where we were. So I was expecting to make sure everybody got compensated for mileage. So I advocated for all these things, put it in a brief of correspondence to them. And what was weird about it was that there wasn't an exact response. And I had shared, like, if these things wouldn't be in position or if you're not able to do these things, then I would have to reconsider whether or not I would be moving forward in the job. I was very careful about the choice of my words because I always want somebody to know I'm really open to negotiation. But if there's no way that you can, you know, compromise on your end, we may have an issue, you know? And so what they did behind my back is they went and tried with the choreographer who was in cahoots, went and tried to find a replacement for me. And then tried to call a rehearsal because I had mentioned, you know, I did choreography.
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit different now because I've helped now the choreographer. And I feel that my credit should really be associate choreographer. So really what I'm asking for is now to get paid whatever the choreographer is getting paid.
Right.
And pretty much everybody else could follow suit with that.
Yeah.
Which is favored nations and it's employment law and it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
And so, so that happened. They tried to find that. And then because I was on the line with other people, I heard that they were calling people to verify whether they were still okay to move forward with the job with the going rate that, you know, even though they had learned the different terms, conditions, and maybe the new compensation that they could bump their rate up to if they are leaning on my side. And there are people that were saying, I definitely am with that. I'm definitely with that. All being unbeknownst to me, it's happening behind my back of, you know, caving, like everybody caving, right?
Yeah.
So whatever happens, they call a rehearsal. One of the dance artists ends up letting me know that they were calling a rehearsal. And I pulled up. I rolled up to the rehearsal and it took that choreographer by surprise. And she was like, you know, a little timid little thing. And, you know, it was kind of like a okay, so you guys are having a rehearsal to teach a new dance artist. It was a private rehearsal to teach a new dance artist my track.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't do that. Like, I literally shared pay transparency with you. You can't just replace me in a job that I was booked for because I wanted to discuss negotiating a fee.
Right.
You can tell me this is the fee. It's not going to change for XYZ reason. Take it or leave it and allow me a way to decide. But you can't just go and teach my replacement, my track, my choreography, because that's what you're really doing.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is I may or may not have seen her leave because she was like, I'm going to have the producer call you, make sure everything is good. She was just acting like everything was okay.
Yeah.
And then she was secretly telling the producer, I need to step away from all of this because this is now overwhelming for me, because she was basically just caught. Like, you're caught not advocating for the right things. You're caught not advocating for dance artists, period, you know? And it's wrong, and you're feeling that, and that's your conscience and your judgment. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, what's going on, like what's happening, you know? And I wasn't sharing all the stuff that I said to you just now. I was just like, what's going on and why is this happening? Like, are you really teaching them my choreography and track? And it was just, it was overwhelming for her. And so she left. And I was like, let me get in Sally real quick. Sally's the name of my car. And I get in Sally, and I'm literally following right behind her and the assistant in the car, to the point where the producer had, because I wasn't convinced that the producer was going to call me, because they hadn't talked to me at all. They weren't talking through me. They were talking through their actions. So I was like, let me just... And I think she thought like I had a gun or something, like I was about to like crip in blood like her. Like, it was crazy. No. It was crazy. But she apparently called her agent crying and said that, you know, Tasha Riley was following her. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm not following her. I'm finding a place to park. I'm parked right now. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm parked. But she was really, really, I think, moved by my action. And they ended up having a conversation with me. The producer went and sat me down. And what ended up happening is they said, you know, they'd like to go in a different direction for the project of replacing me with somebody else. I said, that's fine. So what are we going to do here about my fee? Because I still worked a job. I wasn't fired for not doing my job well, because you guys already approved that the workshopping process was great and the skeleton reference that was sent in was 100% what you were looking for. So you're technically teaching somebody else my track that I helped choreograph. So how are you going to compensate me for that? And what ended up happening is I got actually paid exactly what I wanted and what I quoted in the brief. I got that paid out for me immediately. I got paid before everybody else that did that project, and they call it a kill fee, but it's definitely something that if more dance artists knew about it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think I think a majority of dancers in that situation would just be like, man, like, that's a bummer, like, I'm fired now, like, so where did you so where did you learn all this? Where did you
to pull up New York? No, but about the kill fee, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these situations, well, there was 2 other situations that happened like that before.
Okay, so just experience.
I didn't follow a choreographer, but
just experience.
But
you've kind of cultivated now, like, what to look for.
Oh yeah, you gotta pay me because you already booked me. You confirmed me for this project. You confirmed me for these days. You confirmed these hours. So this is the fee that I'm owed.
Right.
You cannot, and this is public knowledge. You can go and look this up for California employment law or wherever, that you can't get fired for pay transparency, like for discussing what you're going to be paid with other employees, other contractors. You can't get fired for that. You can't get fired for bringing it up and asking questions. You can't get fired for trying to renegotiate even after you've been booked, because if circumstances change, you're not being booked on the precipice of what they wanted to book you for. Now it's changed. So when I originally did this job, the brief was like basic movement direction.
Right.
So for me, the way I perceive that in interpretation is, oh, we're probably going to do a hook here or a verse here. And and it's a scene. And I'm somebody that asks to see the creative deck. So as a dance artist, a lot of dance artists don't know to do that and to request that. But you're an artistic collaborator. You should be requesting that. That'll help you do your job better. And it'll give you context to the type of job you're going to be doing. The creative deck itself only had a scene of the movement direction choreography within the treatment, within the storyboard. So I went in thinking, oh, this is easy, simple, down, because it's low budget, but I'm down. Quick little check, quick little thing. Then we're getting introduced to, and you're going to be barefoot possibly, and you're going to be in cement concrete, and you're doing the whole song, and we may ask to do solos too. And when you tack those on, there has to be a line that's drawn, or there has to be a structure that's then created for the dance artist exercising their creative choices of learning the extent of what that is going to be. Because I don't think people realize when you are going and doing that, that's exerting way more energy than a structured choreographic performance.
Right.
Every single time you got to be on, and you're body rolls, moving in circles, different improvisational techniques. Gaga. Gaga is definitely like that, right? No. But yeah, so that's, I mean, a lot of it is public knowledge. A lot of it is, I found out through that way, or I found out through the experience of understanding the process.
Do you find a lot of pushback, or what's like the average response from other dancers that are on set when you start having these conversations? Do you find a lot of dancers being like, I don't want anything to do with this, like I just want to do the job and I don't want to have any sort of like bad experience? Or is it the opposite? I mean, what's kind of been the result most of the time?
I think there is an intimidation factor to some of the things that I say, and they're not intimidated necessarily by me, but they're intimidated by what I might say. And to be looped in with that, and that could possibly put them at risk of their job, right? But there is this thing, right? There's like a Richter scale range of the type of dance artist you are, because there really isn't an evolved, an articulate system created for jobs being booked based on the quality of the performer and the level of experience and the level of years put into that experience. So you could have on a really iconic job working with a really iconic recording artist. You could have somebody that literally just moved out to LA a month ago, just started their training. This is their first big gig, is working with Rosh Hashanah. And then you can have somebody that is a vet in the industry, has about 10-15 years, slight bitterness to the way that, things seem to always go, or slight jadedness. And you have that person on the job. Then you have that person that's like, I need the check, I'm tired of this, but I need the check, so I'm gonna just keep my mouth shut. Like, you have all these different ranges, and I could go on and describe different archetypes or archetypes for the dance artists in their scalable range of experience, right? Because it's like, it's kind of an unknown scalable, right? You could be a dance artist and have been dancing for 10 years and be trash.
Yeah.
But you could also be a dance artist for 10 years and have worked with literally everybody.
Right,
You could be a new artist and you are most hardworking, determined, ready for it, and bold, and know what you want to do with your career. You could also be that one that just moved out and was like, yes, run the world, Beyonce, $200, I'm in.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what makes it difficult when it comes to these advocating situations, because we really are not on the same page. Like, we're not on the same page. Sometimes we're not in the same chapter, the same book, or we have not even understood that there's a library.
Yeah. So as we kind of like close in, what are some like red flags off rip that a new dance artist could look for that's like okay, cool, I should at least ask a question?
Red flags.
Maybe red flags is a bad verbiage. What are just some things that, like, because as a new dance artist, you might be so just, wow, I booked this job.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But and you already kind of pointed to, like, figure out who's going to be on set, like get the list of all the people, get their names, what is the creative deck? What are some other things that you traditionally like look at or look for or request that wouldn't necessarily put you, if you are a new dancer, wouldn't necessarily put you in the position of feeling like you're at risk to lose the opportunity, but could give you more to make a decision or negotiate or whatever it may be?
Right. I mean, honestly, the sweet spots would be with the contract and how that contract's created, if there is a contract.
Yeah.
Always looking at like cancellations, suspense, delay.
Yeah.
Always looking at the level of usage and what the extent of how far it could go. And I'm saying this speaking as a manager, because I am a manager.
Yeah. And not necessarily that these things are bad. It's just,
no, it's not.
You want to know if they're.
You want to know, and you want to have intention, and you want also the projects that you're working on or productions that you're working on to be intentional.
Yeah.
And have a purpose. Like, okay, yes, I'm twerking. Yes, I'm maybe a white girl twerking that's learning it from a choreographer that is not necessarily, a twerk expert, but put it in a combination. What's the reason why we're doing this?
Yeah.
And it could be something like that, that's a creative thing, a creative intention, or it could be something about the message overall, for what are we trying to put out here. And I think that's sometimes because we're always part of a collective or contributing to a principal act most of the time, that we forget that we have a say in the individual intention. And that's really the joining I guess component of collaboration, is that we all believe in the same thing. We all have the same story we want to tell. But when it gets to that point where somebody is doing something that you don't artistically or creatively or just on a political level, approve of, it should be your responsibility as an artist, because you are an artist that is expressing what you truly believe, live, and give towards life, right?
Yeah.
So it should never strip your power in that if you don't really mess with the concepts or tango with, what it is that the principal act or the other artist collaborator is pulling out, you should definitely start doing your questioning starting from there of why am I here? And why am I making a point to back up something that I truly don't believe in or I don't think would be good for the world? I feel like we as artists, I'm encouraging and trying to reinforce that a lot in my situations, but I think that we should be reinforcing as a whole, especially within this time right now, because we all know that we're in a very interesting time in the world.
Yep.
And so I think stopping and examining exactly what the intention or the message is where my line of questioning begins. And then it goes into, okay, the quality of labor that they're asking me to execute. Then it goes into maybe what I'm going to be paid and why I'm going to be paid that on the front end and the back end. I'm now also focusing on back end or equity opportunity, equity benefits, equity perks, because I do believe not just with dance artists, also with directors, also with cinematographers, that we should actually be seeking that more licensing power or an opportunity for us that's created within the threshold of the content creation. So like there's things like that. Obviously, there's things like makeup, hair. Is it going to be on set? Are they going to have it for us? Dressing rooms.
Kind of
what's the situation? But it's all along. It all starts with that like intention. And why do you have me here? Why are you grateful to have me here? I have gratitude for being here and for you considering me for the opportunity. But why am I here? Like, am I here to really be a part of the participating in the development, pre-production, production process, or am I just this put the star on top of the Christmas tree, or am I put the ornament on the Christmas tree? Like, am I that, or am I it's just a stand that has to kind of go here or whatever, you know? So I think that knowing that, it allows me to understand maybe what my outright leverage is, or where my place is to them, and then reminding myself of, okay, I place value on myself. I place value on this opportunity. I don't necessarily place value on the people, weigh those options, and this is what I get. I'm going to do it.
Would you say current moment, current climate of dance and just your artistry, your focus is on that equity side of things at the moment? Do you think that that's kind of where you're at in the next, movement of your career and your approach?
Yeah. I think equity, legacy, both of those are really important. Leaving the mark, leaving a footprint that's thick or deep enough for the future kids to see, even when it's maybe been walked on several times. Because that is what really matters, is passing the torch to reignite it, and with something a little bit more fresh in terms of fire. And I do see that there's a lot of dance artists that are moving out here, even moving to other dance capitals in the world, and they're so lost and they're confused and they don't really know the difference between performative content and documented training, and like they don't understand that the reason why I trained coming out to LA wasn't to get in more video content. It wasn't that. It was literally so I could learn from the greatest around, and to learn how to organize my emotional and mental and physical disciplines. It wasn't so I could end up in a group select or star in somebody's video. These are all cherries, like, on top of the sundae, but it's not the reason for doing that. And also just to meet people, just to be transactional, just to be, I literally love dance because it is therapy. It is a constant practice. It is part of my journey of expression, of evolving my expression, really rethinking and re-examining that. And I want people to know that, and I think you are the same way too, of just you want people to know the real reason, the real in between the toe, work. And I think documentation too is is becoming even more important to me, because we're not documented and credited on a lot of things. And you think that IG is helping, but if IG as an app were to be erased, a lot of the documentation of dance artists would go right along with it, because it's not really credited, you know? So I think that is definitely where I am focused. Equity for sure. But I think that's a bigger beast.
Yeah.
And I think starting with documentation will help with just even advocating for the accolades, achievements that are won by other dance artists, and amplifying their stories, because I never grew up with a biopic of a dance artist.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My last thing. This
good, because I am tired.
This might be short. Do you feel like having a standard for your values, your morals, and just an overall integrity has been ultimately beneficial or not?
Oh, I think it's beneficial. I think it's annoying. It's really annoying that I have standards, but I'm now at a stage of acceptance, and abundance, and I've gone through this challenge transparently. I've gone through this challenge of not really thanking myself and being proud of myself, and reminding myself of how far I've come, and that, you know, in a space of receiving and having my arms open of, yes, abundance. Yes, I'm a magnet of abundance. I'm a magnet to attract everything that, you know, I am, and that, that I desire and that I choose. And I think we can get stuck as artists in general, but a lot of dance creatives getting stuck in that, not really taking a second and just keeping your arms open to accept what should be coming to you, because you deserve it and you are enough. I mean, that's particularly, I forgot what the question was, but
that was great.
That was my answer to
the incredible
question I don't even know anymore.
Thank you so much, Slay. I really, really appreciate you sitting down and chopping it up and just kind of sharing your experiences and your intention, and just so much value. And I really hope anybody listening at least takes away a little bit of like empowerment, if anything, to kind of stand up and be true to, you know, what it is that you believe in, and making sure that those intentions are clear across the board. So
definitely.
Where can everybody find you? What are you doing next?
All of this makes my armpits hot. Right now I'm focusing being in a state of rest. Like I said, state of rest, state of receiving, state of acceptance, state of abundance. And in terms of what's coming next, you will know when I know. You will know. Well, you will know
there it is.
When I'm ready to share it. I already know, but you will know when I'm ready to share it. But right now you can pop on over to my Instagram, which is holding my former name because Meta won't let me change it. But it's at Taja Riley, and it lets you know I do go by Slay Smiles. But yeah, I mean, like, take your pick. There's still people that are like, yo, you did that, Taja, or calling me out as Taja in classes. I'm like,
tone it down.
Keep it on the down low. Anyways, at Taja Riley.
Amazing.
You can find me on IG.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for listening and hopping into this episode. Be sure to check out Slay on Instagram, and all the links will be in the description. So, thank you for listening, and that's it.
Have a nice Slay.